Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going down, brother?
I am very well indeed. I was impressed with you on that last podcast. I thought you knocked it out of the park. Well done. Good job.
Why are you surprised? That's what.
Oh, you were just, I'm not surprised, just impressive. You were in flow, weren't you? Right. So, like you said, once we stop recording, it gets you fired up when you hear about these guys being disrespected, and does me too. I Yeah, I know we spoke about how one of the scenarios of handling that after the podcast. But yeah, regardless, I thought the last one, there was some great advice on there. Anyway, what I would like to bring to the conversation right now is something that came up on the office hours call yesterday. Now, the gentleman in question.
So, Tim, real quick, I'm going to interrupt you if I can. So, most of the guys listening to this have no idea what you mean by office hours. Can you explain what office hours are?
Yeah, apologies, guys. We record these podcasts back to back, so I always think you've listened to the previous one. Coming to this one. Real quick, office hours is a weekly call for all the men currently going through the activation method. Every Tuesday, 4 p.m. UK time, so 11 a.m. Eastern, led by myself, Doug, or Arthur. It rotates each week. And the purpose of the call is for the men to get an opportunity to get extra support and coaching, is where they can bring the biggest challenge they are facing right now. And we support them in busting through it so they can continue to create the life and the relationship that they want. So, the challenge, the question. So, I am hurting today, my brothers. I found out that my wife has been seeing someone else.
Ooh.
She doesn't want to cheat on him with me. Weird, right? My struggle is that she doesn't know that I know. I found out by looking at her phone. Not my proudest moment on my part, I realize. I'm really trying to be powerful and wolf-like, but keep wanting to react like a deer. I realize that my actions caused her to seek the emotional safety I wasn't providing. I own that. Now what? Say nothing and wait till she tells me, or own my own untrustworthiness, and let her know that I didn't. Let her know what I did, so we can discuss it. So I will just give a bit more context to this. So when this amazing man shared this yesterday, first of all, I want to commend all the other men that were on the call with us, because they just supported this guy as he broke down into tears and other things. It was just a really special moment in quite a weird way in some respects, right? A real bittersweet kind of experience. This guy in pain, yet seeing an outpouring of love from other guys and support from guys he'd never even met, because obviously these office hours calls have everybody on that's going through the different activation method groups. And in case you don't know, guys, we have 9 guys per group. So as you can imagine, let's keep it nice and small. So guys from different groups. So anyway, it was a real bittersweet moment. But the first question I asked him was, how did you find out? To which he said, I looked on her phone. I'm like, okay. Does she leave her phone lying around? Do you know the passcode? How did that come about? Well, I took her phone. She doesn't know that I know the passcode. Right, got you. Okay. Second question was, what do you want? Do you want to be married to her? Yes, I do. Okay. So how do you think you should go about this? And he gave some phenomenal. What he said when he finished it, I'm like, wow, I'd say exactly that. And then add on this little thing right here. And he said, so I will not be able to repeat it as well as he said it. It was something like, after he's obviously said, hey, I looked at your phone, right, to have this conversation. And he says, look, I know that I haven't been there for you in the past few years in the way that you have needed me to be. I know that I probably pushed you into this guy's arms, and I take responsibility for my part in that. And I'm sorry for making you feel like you didn't have the safety and the security for me, and you couldn't approach me and tell me about it. I know that I've left it too late, and I know that I'm only taking action now, and I know that it probably won't be enough And you might even think it's too little too late. And I understand that you probably don't trust the change that you're seeing in me and that it scares you as well. I mean, even that bit, I was like, whoa. And then he kind of started to stop there. And what I shared with him to add on was, and what you get to do here is you get to take a stand for your worth as a man. Yes, you made mistakes in the past, right? And you're doing your best to correct those. Doesn't mean you have to continue to be punished for what you did in the past. And therefore, if I was you, the thing I would be adding on to this is, and look, I want to be with you. I know it might be scary, the thought of us being together. Right now, I need you to make a decision on whether it's me or it's him. If it's him, that's fine. I'll walk away. I wish you guys the best. And I'll continue to be a great dad for our kids. Which one is it? At which point, depending on obviously the reaction there, because obviously he wants to be with her, right? We've had guys who have been in this situation, laid that clear boundary and not hidden the fact that they knew about the affair, and also not tolerated the fact that they knew about the affair, and that they weren't going to accept this. They weren't going to wait around for weeks after knowing while the wife continued to live this double life. It's like, hey, this is unacceptable. Regardless of how I have behaved, this is unacceptable. I still love you. I own my part in this. I get how I may have pushed you to that. And for some relationships, that may be a firm boundary where it's, you know what, this is done. Right? But for this guy, he still wanted to be with him, be with her, which is fine. So yeah, at that point, who is it? Him, me, or him? And the guys in the past that have done this, when she said him, they've said, okay, fine. And they've just got on with their lives. And because of the way that they've handled it, we even had one guy. This blows my mind. I think you know what I'm about to say, right? We even had one guy who continued living with his wife because they were figuring out a living situation, could see that his wife's new partner was treating her in a way that was making her upset because she was coming back from time with him and being moody and affecting their daughters. To which he stepped in and said, listen, I'm not having this. I'm not allowing that guy to upset you when you bring this into our house and impact our daughters. So he sat the guy down and said, listen, if you're going to be with my ex-wife, this is how you treat her. Boom, 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 boom. I will not stand by and accept, boom, 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 boom. And long story short, you can imagine the effect on the wife, right? Or the ex-wife. So the point I'm making is if you remain in wolf, wise, open, loving, fierce, and okay, I'm cool with that. I don't like it, but I respect it. And you continue to move forward in a wise, open, loving, and fierce way, oftentimes the tables then turn. And oftentimes the woman is like, oh, hang on a minute. This change is lasting. I might be missing out on something over there. And then at that point, the guy often, do I actually want this? Because she starts to want to re-engage. And then at which point, he gets to look at it. So the question here, Doug, obviously you can talk about how you would handle this. And I think one of the biggest points to talk about that I didn't touch on was how you'd handle it in the beginning, how you bring it up with her, given the fact that he wants to be with her. He's betrayed a trust, in theory, by looking on a phone. So over to you.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to touch on how exactly I would handle this because I know exactly what I would do. But first, something I think is really amazing. I didn't think you were going to tell that story. There also have been times where men have confronted their wives and said, hey, it's going to be him or me. The wife says it's him. I choose him. And then the guys go, okay, guys are hurt. Like, it's not like they're like, yeah, it's great. They're hurt and upset. But the wife has saw this guy continue to do things he's learned in the activation method and then has gone back to him. We have a story, Tim, that a guy posted recently. I know we're sharing all these posts the guys are doing in the community. But a guy shared this is His wife, he's in the activation method now. His wife scheduled a trip out of state. So for us in the United States, you know what it means, out of state. And she happened to schedule this vacation for herself in the exact place where this other guy lived, right? Now, supposedly nothing's going on, but come on, right? At least she was planning on it happening, an affair. And he knew it. She knew it. And so he showed up and started doing what he was learning in the activation method, and she canceled her trip. It was never really brought up or confirmed that she was about to go have an affair. But we've seen this time and time again. Ryan Peach has shared his story on here about his wife, which is, talk about courage. Same thing. When guys go through the program and they implement the things in the activation method, it doesn't always happen, but often we hear these stories where the women come back. Now, let's talk about this particular thing. How would I handle it? First of all, I would find a punching bag and beat the crap out of it because I would have to do that to get my rage out, right? I would have to have something to get the anger out because, as you know, Tim, otherwise I'd be getting a baseball bat and I'd be heading over. You nicely said before we recorded this, that I would hit someone's car, and that's not what I'd be hitting. So I would have to get that out of me. Then what I would do is I would wait for a time as quickly as possible where I could be alone with my wife. I would create that space. And I would sit her down and say, let's just say my wife's name is, I don't want to keep using my real wife because I don't have these kinds of conversations with her. Let's say her name is Jennifer. I'd say, I'll assume I call her Jen. I say, Jen, I need to talk to you. I'd sit her on the couch and I'd look her in the eye and I'd say, is there something you need to tell me? This is your chance to come clean. Now, look, I realize I've made a lot of mistakes in this marriage, and I would own my side of the street, and there's things to do. And I want to be with you and move forward, like you said, with you. Is there anything that you need to tell me? So what I would do is create a space for her to come clean and be honest, right? Because otherwise you trap her. And that's where, not only, because Jen's going to get the idea that I know, right? She's going to get the idea that I know something's up. And especially if this guy does know, right? And I'm going to give her the space to do that. Because if she comes clean with me, I know I have a better chance with her in the future. Whereas if she lies to me, the deceit is getting deeper and continuing. That's just a checkpoint for me. Now, let's say that she comes clean. I would do exactly what this guy said. I thought it was really awesome the way you repeated it. Like you said, I'm sure it was more eloquent, but you did a good job. And I tell him what I want and hear it. And number two is if you choose me right now, you need to contact this guy in front of me and let him know that he is no longer to ever contact you. Ever. Period. And right now, this is your choice. Otherwise, you lose me forever. Your call. I know I'm worth it. Kind of like we did the boundaries thing in the previous podcast. Mm-hmm. I know my value. I know my worth. My stock is going up. And this guy's he's bettering himself. He's in a program with elite level men who are bettering themselves.
Well, to that point, right? So, guys, just to give you a bit more context, we have also a group within the community, within the movement rather, called The Next Chapter. So this is where the gent posted, and it's full of guys who have chosen to go a different path, right? Within the marriage for one reason or another. So anyway, this guy's getting a lot of support from these men, which is fantastic. And anyway, to your point here, Doug, he's replied to one of the guys and says, I have completed the activation method and delivered my clean slate letter. I feel I addressed what I earned. My wife even accepted and forgave. So she said. However, she keeps going back to it and wants to know why it took so long. Asking, where has this Jason been? I feel everything I am owning up to now and cleaning up my side of the street is just giving her a reason to keep using it on me. I don't see it in that way. She's either. Like, oh, this is the guy I've wanted. Now you're starting to be him, and I've kind of got one foot out the door, maybe 1 3/4. And to your point, she's now thinking about what she's going to lose. The idea is, how high is this stock going to rise? What is possible here? You're on a great path. You're doing all these. This is the man I wanted. Right. So I don't think she keeps bringing it up to use it against you. I think she's bringing it up out of maybe sadness and frustration that it's not been there sooner.
100%.
And if I were you, I would just stay true and say, hey, look, I as well, I wish it could have been sooner, but it isn't. It's now. And all I can tell you is that I know where I'm going in the future. This isn't going to stop anytime soon, with or without you. I want to be with you, but with or without you, this isn't going to stop anytime soon. And again, it's your choice. You can either choose me or you can choose to lose me. I love that language that you said. You can choose to lose me.
Yeah.
Not like, do you want to be with me or not? No one wants to lose anything, do they? Right. So you're reinforcing also the loss. If you lose me, I keeping me means you gain something, essentially. Losing me means you literally lose something, which is a great mindset to be in, right? Because he's seen himself as the prize. He's been treating himself as the prize as well. Hence why her interest has been piqued. She's forgiven him and she's now upset. And she's moved out of being a bit numb and emotionally disconnected to re-engaged.
Well, she's probably upset because so what happens, guys, is most of you guys don't realize, some of you do if you listen to this podcast long enough, but your wife has made a decision long before you know it. Long before. And so she's probably made this decision to have this affair to allow somebody else in months ago or years ago, right? And she's created this space, and now she's doing something that maybe she feels guilty and out of integrity on. So now, but she can justify it because he hasn't shown up. He's been a jerk, all of these excuses. And now he's showing up as the man that she always knew he was. And now she's starting to probably feel some guilt, right? And some shame and regret. But she's still on this divided path. Now, the number one thing men that come through the program say is, I wish I would have done this sooner. Always. We hear it like a broken record, guys. And that's kind of your canary in the coal mine, so to speak. If you haven't been through the activation method, you've been listening to this podcast, what are you waiting for? Listen to the hundreds of men who say the same thing. And some of them get on video, they write it down. So you guys out there can do it because they want to let their former self know, I wish I would have done it sooner. Do it now. So for this guy, I mean, Tim, that's exactly what I would do is I'd sit her down. Now, if she doesn't come clean, she says, no, I got nothing to tell you. I got nothing to do. That's when I say, I know. You know what? I know you've been talking to somebody else, or I know you're having an affair with somebody else. How do you know? That doesn't matter. What matters here is there's a decision to be made in this moment, not tomorrow, now. And that's the way I would leave it. Now, I might mentally, and I'm not in this guy's situation, right? But I might mentally say, if she comes back, if she says him, then comes back or says she can't make a decision, I'm going to push for a decision now because that's going to drive me nuts not knowing. Right? At least the finite of knowing you can make an action, right? He can go do something. Not that he's going to jump on Tinder right away, but he can do something. And the nice thing for this guy is his stock is rising, right? If he's doing his alpha rise and shine, which I'm sure he is, his body's looking better. He's feeling better. His business is probably growing, right? The relationships with people around him, including himself, is growing. So he is going to be in a much better place regardless. However, I'd want to have a decision as soon as possible. And, maybe if she just keeps going, how, maybe I tell her, like, look, I'm not proud of it, but I had a gut feeling. And one thing I've learned is to trust my gut. And my gut told me to check your phone because something was going on. And I was right. Because if she says, oh, you violated my privacy, say, look, I just trusted my gut feeling. Guess what? It was right. She can't deny that. Now, what she might most likely is going to try to do here is blame you for something. right? So if I'm going to be defensive and reacting, now I got to put you as the perpetrator and me as the victim. It's not my fault. It's your fault. You went into my phone. Now I'm going to make it all about you going into my phone. Don't accept that conversation. Boom. Your phone, that conversation is over here. If you guys are listening to this, I'm putting my hands to the left side. The affair is over here. We're talking about the affair right now. We can go back and address this afterwards. Totally cool with that. We can have that conversation right afterwards. Don't worry. I'm open to having that conversation about your you feeling like you've been violated there. But that's not the conversation we're having. It's this one. This conversation.
Trust has been violated.
Well, because people do that all the time. I mean, not always do it consciously. They'll do it unconsciously because they'll try to switch the subject. It's manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are very good. Dude, I grew up with it. My mother, you're not supposed to talk bad about your mom, but my mom, I've confronted her on this as an adult. You know, she raised us on a healthy dose of guilt and manipulation. And she laughed about it. Like, how do I raise 3 boys, otherwise? But she did. And so I could see this pattern coming out. So now when people do it to me, I'm naturally fall into the reaction mode because I did as a boy, my growing up, but I can catch myself seeing it. And I'm like, whoa, that's not what we're talking about here. So I throw that out as a cautionary tale for this gentleman and anybody else, because oftentimes when someone's being confronted, if they feel shame and guilt around it, or they're embarrassed, or they're trying to dodge the issue, they will do that. They will change the subject and change it, and they'll put it back at your court. Like, oh, you did this. Cool. We can talk about that. But that has nothing to do with what happened. Let's talk about this one action here. And I say that also, Tim, because some guys that encounter this are going to be thrown back because some guys have had affairs themselves and been caught. And we've had guys come in where the wife said, well, you did it. You had an affair. Okay. The response is true. And that wasn't the right thing. That wasn't acceptable. That was disrespectful. And we decided together to move forward. And so you're violating that agreement. You did it in the past. Yes. And we decided to move forward, saying that we wouldn't do this. We can talk about the past again if you want to, but first, for now, let's talk about this. Because we're not going to have a healthy marriage unless we do this now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So cool to hear this guy's perspective and that he's taking the teachings and applying them this quickly and this well. It's going to serve him well, hopefully in this marriage for him. But regardless, it's going to serve him well in every relationship he's in.
Sure is. It's incredible to see. He's really applied, like you said, the teachings.
It is. Well, gentlemen, as always, in the moment of insight, take massive action. And we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.